This is the second video that I'm doing in a series on how to use estate planning techniques to protect your kids and set them up for the most successful life that you can in the event that you're not going to be around to help them do that. And the topic of this video is how old is old enough? Because one of the things you can do in your estate plan is delay the date on which they get to control their estate plan, their inheritance by using a trust to control their inheritance for them. And a trust is just a vehicle where you give them money to them, they're the beneficiary of the trust, but they don't get to control the money, they don't get to spend the money, except how you instruct the trustee to make distributions to them. And you can instruct the trustee any way you want. In this video, we're going to talk about what ages should we allow the kids to start getting distributions from the trust so they can start to control their inheritance for themselves. Um, Kids can't inherit anything until they're at least the age of 18. So at 18, you can start distributing money to them out of an estate plan. But most people, at least my clients, think that 18 isn't old enough. They think back in their own lives and they weren't making good decisions when they were 18. And it's not hard for us to imagine that if an 18-year-old inherits a large sum of money, they're not going to use it to diversify their stock and bond portfolio. They're going to use it to take it easy and buy a red Corvette and maybe go on vacation through Europe for a year or two. So 18 is probably too young. You can use your trust to pick later ages. And in fact, you can pick multiple ages if you want. So I've got a lot of clients who choose, for example, make one third, a distribution of one third of the inheritance when they turn 25, another third when they turn 30, another third, and the rest of it when they turn 35. That does several things. One, the kids are older as they're getting control of their inheritance, so they're probably going to make better decisions. And two, you're giving them some control at a younger age with the awareness and the knowledge that they're going to make some mistakes, but you're protecting the rest of the inheritance from those mistakes. So let them learn a little bit about how to manage money. And then after about 5 years of managing the first bit that you've given to them, give them the second distribution and then the third distribution. So by the time they get the third distribution, they should know what they're doing at that point. It progressively gives them an opportunity to make mistakes and do things on their own without endangering them and letting them make one bad decision that loses everything. Um, and most trusts that I've seen in estate plans will at least do that. They'll pick an age or several ages at which to make distributions to kids. There are some factors to keep in mind when deciding what the right age is. And obviously, this is harder to do when your kids are in grade school than when they're in high school or college, because when they're older, you can evaluate better how mature they are. But here are some general factors to keep in mind. One, you want to avoid being the hand that comes out of the grave to control their lives after you're gone. If you keep the money in trust and out of their control for too long, you run the risk of them resenting you. They're not appreciating the fact that you're protecting them. They're now resenting you that you're making them wait until they're 40 or 50 or maybe their entire life before they get to control any part of that inheritance. And one of the goals of estate planning is that we want to keep relationships strong. We want to have our kids appreciate what we've done for them. So you don't want to create an estate plan that is going to likely make your kids resent what you've done for them to protect them. Um, you also want to take into mind that as long as the money is sitting inside the trust, it's protected, not just from them making bad decisions, but it's also protected from creditors and predators and failed marriages and bankruptcies and judgments and things like that. If it's set up as what's called a spendthrift trust. And most trusts are set up with that language. So as long as the money is sitting inside the trust, those third parties who may obtain a claim against your kids can't touch the money. And sometimes I've had clients who want to make adjustments in their trust language when they think that their kids are in an unstable marriage because they want to protect their kid from that becoming a marital asset that could be distributed to a soon-to-be ex-son-in-law or ex-daughter-in-law. So that's a reason to keep it in trust longer because they get those protections for a longer period of time. So you need to balance those desires between keeping it in trust for too long or distributing it too soon. You also, everyone's heard of trust fund kids, and we generally don't have much of a good opinion of trust fund kids. And this is where trust is set up to create an income stream for the kids so they don't have to work. They get money whenever they want it, and they just call the trustee and say, hey, I need another check. Um, Most clients of mine, at least, don't want to create a trust that will create disincentives for their kids to learn to work for themselves and to strive to achieve and not be lazy. So you can choose how much income to provide to the kids. You can choose not to provide any income to the kids other than to support them as they're going through college or something like that. Those are options that you should discuss with your attorney. Maybe give them some income to make their lives a little bit easier, but not enough that they can just choose not to work. The goal here is that we want to set them up for a successful life. That's what all parents want for their kids. Um, but we don't want to keep them in a cocoon for the rest of their life. And a phrase I've heard that was very catchy was, "We want this inheritance to be a safety net, but not a hammock." So you don't want them to just sit back and do nothing, but you want them to have the courage to try to do things, knowing that that inheritance is there to catch them just in case they fail, which could actually encourage them to take on some risks and start a business or change a career or do something else that they might not have had the courage to do if they didn't know that the trust was there to protect them. So those are some things to keep in mind whenever you're talking to your attorney. These are things that I always talk to my clients about when we're setting up trust for their kids. And I hope this video was useful for you. We'll probably have at least 3 or more videos coming out about how to use estate planning techniques to set your kids up for a successful life. And those will probably come out in the next few weeks.